Over 60, 6 cheeses to avoid and 6 you should eat often for longevity. That's right, the cheeses you eat could be quietly shaping your future. The real question is, are they helping you live longer? Or slowly stealing years from your life? I know what some of you might be thinking. Really, Doc, it's just cheese. How bad could it be? But here's the truth. Some cheeses are loaded with hidden ingredients that fuel inflammation, clog arteries, and even mess with your brain chemistry. Others, they're like nutritional gold, helping you fight aging, protect your bones, and even sharpen your memory. And no, this isn't one of those never enjoy food again videos. I love cheese as much as you do. But when you've seen as many patients as I have, and witnessed firsthand what the wrong choices can do to someone's health in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, you start to realize small choices really matter. In today's video, I'll walk you through the 6 cheeses that could be adding years to your life, and the 6 that may be silently sabotaging your heart, your brain, and your independence. But before we jump in, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone you care about. It only takes a second, and it gives us the energy and motivation to keep making science-backed, senior-focused content just for you. And stick around, cheese number 6 on the danger list shocked even me. I guarantee you've eaten it this week, and you'd never guess the risk hiding in every slice. Ready to take control of your health, one delicious bite at a time. Let's get started. 6 cheeses you should eat often, the good list. Number 1. Aged Gouda, a nutritional powerhouse in disguise. Aged Gouda is more than just a delicious cheese. It's a smart choice for anyone over 60 looking to protect their heart, bones, and overall health. What sets this cheese apart is its high content of vitamin K2, a nutrient that plays a crucial role in directing calcium to where it belongs, your bones. Without enough K2, calcium can end up in your arteries, increasing your risk of heart disease. In fact, a Japanese study in 2006 found that seniors with higher K2 intake had 52% less arterial calcification, which is a major contributor to heart attacks and strokes. Beyond heart health, aged Gouda is also rich in conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA, a healthy fat known to reduce inflammation and support fat metabolism. One study even showed CLA could help lower body fat by up to 10% in some individuals. But that's not all. Aged Gouda contains postbiotics, powerful compounds that form during the cheese's aging process. These postbiotics are great for gut health, aiding digestion, reducing inflammation, and even helping improve mood by supporting the gut-brain connection. If you've ever felt off after eating certain foods, it could be your gut talking, and aged Gouda might be part of the solution. To get the most benefit, let the cheese warm to room temperature before eating to enhance its flavor and make nutrients more absorbable. I often recommend pairing it with sliced apples or whole grain crackers for a simple, balanced snack. And I'd love to know, have you ever noticed a difference in how you feel after eating certain cheeses? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Number 2, Parmigiano Reggiano, Italy's secret to strength and longevity. Parmigiano Reggiano isn't your typical store-bought Parmesan. It's the real deal from Italy, aged for over 30 months using traditional methods that date back centuries. What makes it so valuable for seniors is its unique nutritional profile and digestibility. As it ages, the proteins in this cheese break down into smaller, more absorbable peptides, making it an excellent option for older adults with sensitive digestion. If you've ever felt bloated or heavy after eating dairy, Parmigiano Reggiano might be a surprisingly comfortable alternative. Each ounce contains more than 330 milligrams of calcium. That's more than a glass of milk, along with magnesium and phosphorus, in just the right balance for your body to absorb effectively. In fact, studies in Italy have shown that the calcium from Parmigiano Reggiano is absorbed at nearly 100%, while many calcium supplements barely reach 30%. For those who have been advised to take calcium pills, this cheese could be a more natural and enjoyable way to support bone health. Another remarkable component of this cheese is its casomorphins, natural peptides formed during the breakdown of milk proteins. These compounds have a calming effect on the nervous system and may even promote better sleep. If you've been dealing with nighttime restlessness or low-level anxiety, adding a small piece of Parmigiano Reggiano to your evening meal might make a difference. To get the full benefit, I recommend breaking it into small chunks and eating it after dinner, rather than grating it over pasta. This preserves its texture and allows your body to fully absorb the nutrients. Pair it with a few drops of aged balsamic vinegar to enhance flavor and improve mineral absorption. Have you ever tried authentic Parmigiano Reggiano? Did it feel different from the shaker can variety? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear your experience. Number 3, Swiss Gruyere, the anti-aging cheese you didn't know you needed. Swiss Gruyere is one of the most underrated cheeses when it comes to supporting healthy aging. What makes it so special is its incredibly high content of glutathione precursors, mainly cysteine and glycine. Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant, critical for detoxification, protecting your cells, and slowing down the aging process. Unfortunately, our natural production of glutathione drops as we age, especially after 60. That's why adding foods that help restore it, like Gruyere, can be a game changer for your long-term health. This cheese is also rich in propionic acid, a compound produced during its aging process by healthy bacteria. Propionic acid has powerful anti-inflammatory effects and has been shown to naturally lower LDL cholesterol. This is especially important for seniors managing heart health without relying solely on medication. In fact, a 2013 Swiss study found that older adults who regularly ate Gruyere retained significantly more muscle mass compared to those on typical diets. That's not just about looking stronger, it's about maintaining mobility, balance, and independence. Gruyere also delivers a potent mix of B12, zinc, phosphorus, and selenium, all essential nutrients that support nerve function, bone strength, and immune resilience. If you've ever felt mentally foggy, unusually tired, or had frequent colds, low B12 or zinc might be part of the reason. Here's something I often ask my patients. Have you ever considered that a simple food like cheese could help support your muscles, immune system, and even your skin? If you're already eating cheese, why not choose one that actually works for you? Have you tried real Swiss Gruyere before? Let me know how it compares to other cheeses you've eaten and how it makes you feel. Number 4, grass-fed raw cheddar, a true superfood for seniors. Grass-fed raw cheddar isn't just better than regular cheddar, it's in a league of its own when it comes to nutritional value. Because it comes from cows that graze on grass and is made without pasteurization, this cheese retains 4 to 5 times more CLA and omega-3 fatty acids than conventional versions. CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid, is a powerful anti-inflammatory compound that's been linked to improved fat metabolism and reduced risk of chronic disease. Omega-3s, as many of you already know, are essential for brain and heart health, two major concerns as we get older. What makes this cheese even more impressive is its vitamin content. Grass-fed raw cheddar is loaded with vitamins A, D, and E, as well as K2 in its most potent form, MK4. Vitamin K2 is crucial for directing calcium to your bones and away from your arteries, helping reduce the risk of both osteoporosis and heart disease. These nutrients work synergistically to support vision, bone density, immune strength, and overall vitality. Perhaps most interesting is its live probiotic content. Unlike pasteurized cheeses, raw cheddar contains living bacteria that nourish your gut, which plays a major role in everything from digestion to mood regulation. These probiotics help produce serotonin, often referred to as the feel-good hormone, which may explain why some people feel more emotionally balanced when eating fermented foods. Have you ever noticed feeling calmer or more focused after certain meals? Your gut-brain connection could be the reason. One important tip: to preserve the enzymes and probiotic benefits, never heat grass-fed raw cheddar above 120 degrees F. Instead, let it warm naturally to room temperature before eating. Pairing it with fermented vegetables like sauerkraut can create a powerful combo for gut and immune health. Have you ever tried raw cheddar? Did it feel different from what you're used to? Leave a comment and let me know. Your experience could help someone else make a better food choice. Number 5, ricotta from whey, the underrated muscle builder. Ricotta made from whey is one of the most underrated cheeses, especially for people over 60 who are looking to maintain strength and metabolism. Unlike most cheeses that are higher in casein, ricotta is rich in whey protein, a fast-digesting, high-quality protein known for supporting muscle repair and preserving lean mass. This makes it an excellent choice for older adults trying to prevent muscle loss, which becomes more common with age. In fact, Studies have shown that seniors who consume whey protein regularly experience better muscle retention and metabolic function compared to those who don't. One of the best things about ricotta is that it's very low in lactose, making it gentle on the digestive system. Many people who can't tolerate milk or other cheeses find ricotta much easier to digest. It's also incredibly versatile. I often recommend it as part of a heart-healthy snack. Try it with fresh berries and a handful of walnuts. This combination not only provides a satisfying dose of protein and healthy fats, but also delivers antioxidants, fiber, and omega-3s. It's a great way to curb cravings while giving your body the nutrients it actually needs. Ricotta also shines as a post-workout food. Whether you've just gone for a walk, done light strength training, or finished a gardening session, having a few spoonfuls of ricotta afterward can help your muscles recover and reduce soreness. Have you ever used ricotta outside of pasta dishes? How do you like to enjoy it? Drop your favorite combos in the comments. You might inspire someone to give this simple but powerful cheese a second look. Number 6. Low-sodium cottage cheese, a simple food with big benefits. Low-sodium cottage cheese is a smart and underrated option for older adults focused on muscle maintenance, appetite control, and heart health. It's packed with casein protein, a slow-digesting type of protein that's especially useful when eaten in the evening. While whey protein gives you a quick boost, casein works gradually overnight, helping repair muscle tissue and keeping you full longer. That's why I often recommend it as a bedtime snack for my patients trying to maintain strength without gaining unwanted weight. Adding a spoonful of ground flaxseed can take this snack to the next level. Flax adds omega-3 fatty acids and fiber, which support heart health, digestion, and hormone balance. Together, cottage cheese and flaxseed create a nutrient-rich combination that supports both body and brain. One important tip: always go for the low-sodium version. Regular cottage cheese can be surprisingly high in salt, which isn't ideal for those managing blood pressure. The low-sodium alternative gives you the same protein benefits without increasing cardiovascular risk. According to the CDC, nearly 2/3 of adults over 60 have high blood pressure, so making small changes like this can go a long way. Have you ever tried cottage cheese before bed? Did it help you feel more satisfied or rested the next morning? Share your experience in the comments. Your insight could help someone make a healthier evening choice. 6 cheeses to avoid the danger list. Number 1. Processed cheese slices, more chemicals than cheese. Processed cheese slices, the kind individually wrapped in plastic, are among the worst choices for anyone, especially adults over 60. While they might be convenient, they're mostly made of fillers, oils, and additives rather than real cheese. One of the biggest concerns is the presence of sodium phosphate, a preservative that has been linked to kidney strain and cardiovascular issues in several studies. It's not just regular salt. Sodium phosphate can disrupt mineral balance and contribute to arterial calcification over time. These slices are often advertised as calcium-rich, but the reality is that your body doesn't absorb those nutrients well. That's because the high heat and chemical processing used to make them destroys natural enzymes and alters the protein structure, reducing digestibility and bioavailability. Common additives like yellow 5, yellow 6, and polysorbate 80 have been associated with inflammatory responses, allergic reactions, and potential long-term health risks, especially for people with compromised immune or digestive systems. As a doctor, I always encourage my patients to read labels, not just for calorie counts, but for what's actually inside. If a product has more than a few unfamiliar ingredients, ask yourself, is this really food? Have you ever compared the ingredient list on processed cheese to that of real aged cheddar or Parmesan? It's eye-opening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you cut back on processed cheese, or is it still part of your daily routine? Let me know in the comments. Number 2. Cheese spreads in jars, a chemical cocktail disguised as cheese. Cheese spreads in jars might look like a fun, easy option to keep in the fridge, but from a health perspective, they're about as far from real cheese as you can get. These products are highly processed and often packed with hydrogenated oils, flavor enhancers like MSG, and even phthalates, chemical compounds that can leach from plastic packaging and disrupt your hormones. Some versions still contain trans fats, which have been banned in many countries due to their strong link to heart disease, yet they may sneak into your food under different names. One of the biggest concerns is sodium. Just 1 tablespoon of some cheese spreads can contain over 500 mg of sodium. That's nearly a quarter of your recommended daily intake in a single bite. And let's be honest, who only uses 1 tablespoon? Regular consumption can contribute to high blood pressure, fluid retention, and added strain on your kidneys. Especially dangerous for older adults already managing cardiovascular conditions. Another hidden risk comes from the packaging itself. Studies have shown that heat and storage conditions can cause plastic containers to release hormone-disrupting chemicals into the cheese, including BPA and phthalates. These compounds have been linked to weight gain, metabolic problems, and reproductive issues. If you keep cheese spreads in your fridge, take a look at the label. How many ingredients do you recognize as real food? Have you ever noticed feeling bloated or sluggish after eating these spreads? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might encourage someone to make a healthier swap. Number 3, pre-shredded cheese in bags, convenience that comes at a cost. Pre-shredded cheese may save you a few minutes in the kitchen, but it could be costing you more in terms of your health. These products often contain anti-caking agents like cellulose or potato starch, sometimes making up 4% of the total weight. While cellulose is harmful in small amounts, it's indigestible and can interfere with how your body absorbs nutrients. Even worse, many brands add mold inhibitors like natamycin. Though approved for food use, natamycin has been shown in studies to negatively affect gut bacteria when consumed regularly, which can impact digestion, immunity, and even mental clarity. Another issue is oxidation. When cheese is shredded and exposed to air, its surface area increases dramatically, which speeds up nutrient loss and raises histamine levels. For those sensitive to histamines, this can mean headaches, skin irritation, and inflammation. It also explains why some people feel worse after eating store-bought shredded cheese compared to block cheese. In addition to the health drawbacks, pre-shredded cheese often melts poorly due to the added starches and coatings. That means you're not only getting fewer nutrients, you're also sacrificing taste and texture. Have you ever compared how a fresh block of cheese melts versus the bagged kind? The difference is noticeable. If you're someone who relies on convenience, consider this. Would spending an extra 30 seconds to shred your own cheese be worth better flavor, better digestion, and fewer additives? Let me know in the comments if you've noticed a change after making the switch. Number 4, blue cheese for sensitive people. A bold flavor with hidden risks. Blue cheese is known for its strong taste and aroma, but for some people, especially those over 60, it can come with hidden health risks. It contains high levels of tyramine and histamines, naturally occurring compounds that can trigger migraines, raise blood pressure, and cause flushing or anxiety in sensitive individuals. If you're taking MAOI medications for depression or Parkinson's disease, consuming blue cheese could be dangerous and may even lead to a hypertensive crisis. This isn't just a theoretical concern. It's a well-documented interaction that every senior on medication should be aware of. In addition, the mold used to create blue cheese produces compounds called mycotoxins. While small amounts are generally considered safe, regular or excessive intake can allow these toxins to build up in the body, potentially stressing the liver and immune system. This is particularly concerning for those with autoimmune conditions, leaky gut, or chronic inflammation, where even mild irritants can have amplified effects. Some people don't realize that their digestive issues, headaches, or skin flare-ups might be tied to something as simple as eating blue cheese regularly. Have you ever noticed any strange reactions after eating blue cheese? Maybe pressure in your head, brain fog, or joint pain. It might be more than just coincidence. Let me know in the comments if you've had any unusual responses to aged or moldy cheeses. Your experience might help someone else recognize a pattern in their own health. Number 5. American cheese blocks Velveeta-like? A processed food disguised as cheese. American cheese blocks like Velveeta may look like cheese and melt easily, but nutritionally they fall short, especially for anyone over 60 trying to protect their heart and metabolism. Many of these products contain less than 50% actual cheese, with the rest made up of hydrogenated oils, artificial flavors, emulsifiers, and a hefty dose of salt. These processed ingredients can raise LDL, bad cholesterol, contribute to insulin resistance, and make it harder to maintain a healthy weight, all key concerns for aging adults. The issue isn't just the ingredients, but the lack of nutritional value. You're getting added calories, saturated fats, and sodium without the protein, calcium, or vitamins you'd expect from real cheese. According to the American Heart Association, regular consumption of highly processed foods is linked to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, especially in older adults. As a doctor, I often ask my patients, do you feel full and energized after eating, or sluggish and bloated? The answer often comes down to food quality, not just portion size. Have you ever compared how you feel after eating real cheddar versus something like Velveeta? Let me know in the comments. Your experience could help someone else make a healthier switch. Number 6. Flavored or smoked cheeses, when taste comes at a nutritional price. Flavored and smoked cheeses might seem like an exciting twist on the classics, but they often come with a hidden cost, especially for people watching their heart health, sodium intake, or inflammation levels. Many of these cheeses contain artificial liquid smoke, synthetic flavorings, and preservatives designed to enhance taste and shelf life. But those added ingredients can work against your body over time. Some varieties include MSG analogs and stabilizers that may trigger headaches, bloating, or fatigue in sensitive individuals. Others sneak in added sugars to balance the salty or smoky taste, making them even less suitable for people managing blood sugar or weight. These cheeses are usually highly processed, meaning they've lost much of the natural structure and nutrition you'd find in traditional or aged cheeses. They're often packed with excess sodium, sometimes more than 400 mg per serving, which can elevate blood pressure and strain the kidneys, particularly in older adults. As a physician, I often tell my patients, if it tastes unusually strong or too good to be true, it probably has more chemicals than nutrients. Have you ever looked at the label on one of these cheeses and struggled to recognize the ingredients? Or have you felt off after eating one, even if it was just a small serving? Let me know in the comments if you've had an experience that made you think twice about flavored or smoked cheeses. Your story might help others make smarter, cleaner choices. Real-life story. One of my longtime patients, Linda, age 68, had been dealing with recurring migraines, bloating, and restless sleep for years. She had tried over-the-counter remedies, adjusted her schedule, and even looked into supplements, but nothing made a lasting difference. During a routine checkup, we reviewed her diet and noticed she regularly ate blue cheese, thinking it was a high-end and healthy option. What she didn't realize was that blue cheese contains high levels of tyramine and histamines, both of which are known migraine triggers and can disrupt sleep and digestion in sensitive individuals. We made one simple swap. She replaced the blue cheese with a few ounces of Gruyere, a naturally aged cheese rich in probiotics and glutathione precursors. Within 2 weeks, Linda's migraines had nearly disappeared, her digestion improved, and she reported deeper, more restful sleep. Sometimes it's not about what you're lacking, it's about removing what's quietly holding you back. Have you ever made a small dietary change that led to a big improvement in how you feel? What food do you suspect could be triggering issues for you, even though it seems healthy? Your body is always giving you feedback. Are you listening? So let's quickly recap. We looked at 6 cheeses that can truly support your health after 60, from boosting bone density and brain function to protecting your heart and gut. We also uncovered 6 cheeses that may be quietly working against your body, packed with additives, sodium, and inflammatory compounds. The goal isn't to fear food, it's to understand it, so you can make confident, informed choices every time you open your fridge. Remember, even small shifts in your daily diet can lead to big improvements in how you feel. Better energy, better sleep, less pain, more vitality, it all adds up. Your food is either fueling your future or silently holding you back. Which path will you choose? If this video helped you see cheese or your health in a new way, do me a favor. Give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend or loved one, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another tip. We've got more easy, science-backed guidance coming your way every week, designed specifically for people over 60 who want to live better longer. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Dr. William. Stay strong, stay sharp, and as always, keep choosing health. See you in the next video.